Hey everyone, I hope you're doing good. This weekend, I was teaching my students about how the human brain works. How is it that we read content? How is it that, as designers, we can help our users or our visitors who are visiting our website scan the content better? So first of all, I want to share with you that there have been ample studies, and it's a known fact if you consider your own behavior when you're going to a website that we hardly read the content. We hardly read the entire content. We are usually skimming the content, or we are usually scanning the content. So it's very important that our content is scannable. Now, Nielsen Norman Group in 2000, in the early 2000s, in 2004 or 6, they came up with something called, they talked about something called an F pattern, which was based on the several eye tracking studies that they did. And they talked about how human brain, how human eyes fall into a certain pattern. How is it that we read a content? And it typically follows an F pattern where we scan content from the horizontal top to the horizontal right, and then we come vertically down, and then for some bit we read, we for half of the line we read the content again, and then we go vertically down and we do not scan the rest of the content. And the problem with this approach, what happened later, was that it sort of became like a magic sauce recipe which designers started following. There were a lot of case studies which came up and which started proclaiming that if you have to increase the conversions of your page, or if you have to increase the conversion of your product, all you need is to put your content in an F pattern. All the important parts should be on the F pattern, and that is how your designs can be better. And it became like a one size fit all approach. Similarly, there's a Z scanning pattern as well, which again says that the content, human brain perceives content as from the far left, on the top, from the far left to the far right, then it goes diagonally to the bottom left, and then to the bottom right. And the studies further also showed that for the countries where the content is written from the right to the left, like in Arabic, the same, so there's a flipped F or a flipped Z. And again, the implication of this became that it came out as that you just have to slap an F or a Z on your content, and your content would be good, your conversions would be high. And this is where it gets problematic. So Nielsen Norman actually also mentioned that this is not the right way to design. So they just talked about how when designers and writers do not do a good job of making their content scannable, that is when this is the default pattern that the human brain or the human eye follow. So it's not the right pattern, it is the default pattern. Our job as designers is to make sure that we are helping our users direct their attention to the important pieces, and really we do not have to stick to the F or a Z pattern. It is when designers and writers do not do their job right that people tend to follow that pattern. So it's actually, Nielsen Norman actually also came up with another pattern which is called a layer cake pattern, which they say that it's an antidote to the F pattern. So in their defense, they just talked about how this is a default and we should not be doing it, but it came out as that we have to follow the F pattern if we want our designs to be successful. So the antidote to that is the layer cake pattern. So it says that just as in a layered cake there are several layers and each layer has something to offer. Similarly, the way we use the visual hierarchy to arrange our content in a way that the users are able to make out that what are the most important bits in the content, what is the second most important bit in the content, and then maybe the third, and so forth and so forth. So in the best websites that perhaps you would have seen, they necessarily do not follow a Z or an F pattern. In fact, what they do is a very clear visual hierarchy, very clear hierarchy where something which is more prominent, which is more important, would be highlighted through the use of colors, maybe font sizes, maybe maybe with the size, and maybe with high contrast. So these are all the things that you can do to make sure that the humans who are visiting your website, the users that are visiting your website, do not fall into the F pattern. So this is something that I wanted to share, that everything that you design is highly contextual, and there is no magic sauce, there's no recipe. And it is really not possible to define your designs in an F or a Z. And why do that when there is so much space literally for you to innovate and to make new stuff? So again, remember that F and Z patterns are actually the patterns that come into existence, that human eye fall back to. These are the default options that we humans fall back to when the content is not well designed. But if it's well designed, it is definitely not the pattern that we follow. So I hope this was helpful to you. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.